Oscar goes to Michael B. Jordan.
Why could such a controversial film sweep every major award? Why did other strong contenders suddenly disappear so mysteriously this season? Behind the blinding lights of the Academy Awards 2026, a dark truth about how Hollywood operates is beginning to surface.
Michael B. Jordan, March 15th, 2026. Boom, the Dolby Theater froze as his name rang out for Best Actor. The whole place went silent, then exploded with emotion as Michael shook, gripping his mom's hand tight, leaning in to kiss her cheek like he needed that steady ground. You could see it, real, raw, no filter, he whispered. God is good, God is good, voice cracking, tears heavy, almost drowning out the crowd. Every ear locked onto him as he fought through the sobs, still pushing to hear and deliver that speech.
God is good.
This wasn't just a simple thank you. It felt deeper, almost like he was calling out history itself. Michael started naming legends one by one: Sidney Poitier, Denzel Washington, Jamie Foxx, saying each name with weight, like it meant something bigger than just respect. The way it came out didn't sound like a tribute. It felt like a roll call of Hollywood's long-standing debts.
I stand here because of the people that came before me. Sidney Poitier, Denzel Washington, Halle Berry, Jamie Foxx, Forrest Whitaker, Will Smith, and to be amongst the...
Like he was checking who paved the way and who's still owed. But right in the middle of all that praise, things got tense. Katt Williams, known for calling out the industry's hidden truths, didn't stay quiet. No sugarcoating, no hesitation. He dropped the phrase, blood deal, hinting at something deeper behind Michael B. Jordan's win. And suddenly the whole moment felt charged with suspicion. You think that was talent? No, that was a trade just to hold that gold statue. That's how the talk started heating up, with people questioning what really went on behind the scenes. Some voices pushed the idea that the price wasn't just hard work on set. It was something way deeper, like giving up control and freedom just to win big. Katt Williams' claims hit like a spark in a gas tank, turning whispers into loud, messy conversations everywhere. And then the questions kept coming fast. Why did such a controversial film sweep nearly every major award like it was untouchable? Why did other strong contenders fade out so suddenly this season, lost behind the blinding lights of the 2026 Academy Awards? People started looking closer, wondering if there's a darker side to how Hollywood really moves. When tears start to look like some kind of spiritual payment, that night, March 15th, 2026, didn't feel like a normal awards show anymore. The Dolby Theater stopped feeling like a movie venue and started giving off something way heavier, almost like a ritual space sitting right in the middle of Hollywood. The air felt tight, thick with tension, mixing luxury with that quiet feeling nobody wants to speak on out loud. When Michael B. Jordan's name echoed for Best Actor, the room exploded, but it didn't feel like pure celebration. It sounded louder, sharper, like a system cheering for its biggest win of the night. Cameras snapped into a crisp 4K close-up, locking onto his face as he made that walk to the stage. The whole world seemed to pause, watching every step. And when he got up there, it wasn't some polished speech off a phone or empty, rehearsed lines. His body shook, hands trembling, emotions hitting in waves. It didn't even look like simple joy. It felt more intense, like someone trying to process a moment that was bigger, heavier, and way more complicated than it appeared on the surface. Look closely into those eyes, the same ones Katt Williams once described as having seen the devil. That expression didn't scream victory. It felt off, like relief mixed with something way heavier, almost like fear creeping in underneath. When Michael said, "God is good, God is good," his voice came out rough, shaky, almost breaking apart. It didn't land like celebration. It sounded closer to a plea, like he was trying to steady himself in real time. People started reading into every move, the way he held onto his mother's hand, pulling her close and kissing her cheek. It felt intense, almost painful in how real it looked. In that moment, he didn't come off like a polished A-list star standing on top of the world. It felt more raw, like someone searching for comfort, trying to hold on to something real while standing in a moment that felt overwhelming. Then came the speech. And that's when the mood shifted even more. At first, the room expected the usual flow, the typical acceptance rhythm everyone's used to. But seconds in, something felt different. His delivery wasn't smooth, there wasn't much smiling, and the words didn't come out in that clean, rehearsed way. It felt uneven, unpredictable, like the moment itself was slipping out of control right in front of everyone watching. Instead, there were pauses, and not the kind you hear from someone soaking in a win. These pauses felt heavy, like every word had to be measured, like saying the wrong thing might carry consequences. When he said Sidney Poitier, the whole room nodded. Of course, a legend, nothing strange there. But then he kept going. Denzel Washington, Jamie Foxx, Forrest Whitaker, Will Smith, name after name stacking up like a chain of greatness. On the surface, it sounded like respect, like honoring icons who shaped the game. But something about the way he said those names felt different. There wasn't excitement or pride pushing the words out. It felt weighted, serious, almost tense. His voice dipped lower with each name, his shoulders tightened, and his grip on that gold statue got stiff, like he was holding onto more than just an award. It didn't feel like he was just mentioning legends. It felt like he was stepping into something bigger than himself. At that point, the speech stopped feeling like a thank you and started feeling like a roll call. Not to celebrate, but to confirm, to mark that each of those names had stood in that exact spot before him. And now, he was right there too, stepping into that same line, whether he fully wanted to or not. That's where the deeper idea starts creeping in. A system, a cycle, something that keeps moving and always needs the next name to step up. The strangest part wasn't even what he said, it was how he looked. Michael didn't lock eyes with the camera for long, and he barely scanned the full crowd. His gaze kept drifting, again and again, toward that VIP section where the most powerful people were sitting, like that's where the real attention needed to be. They weren't just sitting there as guests, they felt like gatekeepers, the ones controlling who rises and who stays locked out. And that speech? It came off like a signal, something unspoken but loud at the same time. I've arrived, I did what was needed, I accept where I stand now. The energy in that room shifted hard. Time felt slower, almost frozen. No one jumped up, no interruptions, no big emotional outbursts, just this strange, heavy stillness hanging in the air. It was like everything paused on purpose. The names he called didn't feel like they were just memories. They felt present, like they were right there in that moment, watching, not celebrating, not cheering, but witnessing, as if a new name had just stepped into their circle, tied into that same spotlight that never really turns off. Oscar 2026 started to feel less like an awards show and more like a hidden documentary playing out in real time. People walked in expecting Sinners to be just a vampire story, something entertaining and fictional, but walking out, it hit different. It felt more like a message, almost like a coded diary about how things really work behind the scenes. Ryan Coogler didn't play it safe. He wrapped a heavy idea inside a horror shell, letting it unfold without saying it directly. In Sinners, Michael B. Jordan's character is stuck inside a system you can't see but can definitely feel. Used, drained, turned into something that serves a bigger machine. And when you line that up with his Oscar moment, the comparison hits hard. On screen, you've got a character losing himself piece by piece. And then off screen, there's a man standing under bright lights with an expression that feels just as intense, just as hard to fully explain. The line between script and reality didn't just blur, it completely shattered the second he touched that gold statue. Hollywood runs on control, where every move is planned and every smile gets approved behind the scenes. But that night, something felt off, like the system slipped for a second. Michael's speech wasn't clean or polished. It came out cracked, full of pauses, heavy emotion, things that didn't fit that perfect star image everyone expects. It felt like a glitch you weren't supposed to see. Here he was, standing at the highest point of success, but his expression told a different story, like someone who had just faced something deep and hard to shake. On screen, he played a man losing himself piece by piece, and then in real life, he stood there accepting an award in a moment that felt just as intense. The contrast hit hard, almost unsettling under all those flashing lights and that polished, elite atmosphere. And then, there was that one image that stuck with everyone, Michael holding tight to his mother's hand. That didn't feel staged or done for attention, not even close. It looked instinctive, like he needed something real to hold on to in a moment that felt overwhelming. She came off like his anchor, the one thing grounding him while everything around him kept pulling him deeper into that high-pressure world. I was a child with a soul. That idea hit hard when people started looking at Michael B. Jordan's 2026 Academy Awards win as more than just a career moment. It stopped feeling like pure achievement and started looking to some like proof of the kind of blood deal Katt Williams kept talking about. Suddenly, Sinners didn't feel like just a vampire movie anymore. It came off like a warning signal flashing across the entire entertainment industry. Yeah, he walked away with the award, but some people argued he gave something up in the process. The conversation got intense, painting him as someone stepping into a role bigger than himself, becoming part of a system that shapes and controls everything at the top. It's a heavy claim, but it's exactly the kind of narrative that started spreading fast online. Katt Williams' name stayed right in the center of it all, tied to this idea of hidden rules and unspoken contracts. Katt isn't viewed like a typical comedian by everyone watching. He's seen as unpredictable, sharp, and willing to say things others won't. With his bold style and direct delivery, he's built a reputation as someone who challenges the industry instead of playing along with it. When he shows up on podcasts or live TV, people pay attention because he doesn't follow the usual script. He speaks in a way that sparks reactions immediately. One of his most talked about lines still echoes, "You never reach the top of Hollywood without being controlled." That statement hit even harder once Michael stood on that stage, emotional, calling out the names of legendary black actors like it meant something deeper. The audience felt inspired in the moment, but Katt, he responded differently, doubling down on his perspective during a live stream that caught a lot of people off guard. Right after the ceremony ended, Katt Williams came through with a statement that hit like a shockwave across the entertainment world. No congratulations, no applause. He went straight in and used the phrase, blood deal. Looking dead into the camera, sharp and unblinking, he said, "You see a talented actor crying. I see a debtor paying interest." That line alone had people replaying the clip over and over. Then he doubled down. "You see a golden statue. I see a gold-plated shackle." That comparison flipped the whole moment on its head. According to Katt, Michael B. Jordan's rise isn't just about talent and hard work. It's a complicated path filled with trade-offs and pressure at every level. He pointed to different moments in Michael's career, suggesting there's more going on behind the scenes than what the public gets to see. But Katt didn't stop at one person. He zoomed out and painted a much bigger picture. Instead of talking about something straight out of a horror movie, he shifted the focus to power, real-world influence, networks, and the people sitting at the very top. He described a system made up of media giants, billionaires, and industry gatekeepers who quietly shape outcomes without ever stepping into the spotlight. And that's where things got even more intense. Katt made it clear he wasn't talking about anything supernatural in a literal sense, but he still left a heavy question hanging in the air. If it's not some mythical force pulling strings, then what is powerful enough to shape an entire awards season? Who has the reach to shift attention, control narratives, and decide who rises while others fade out of view? Katt paints Hollywood like a twisted kind of religion, where these so-called sinners keep track of every rise and fall, every win, and every loss. In that view, Michael B. Jordan, with his polished image and that heavy symbolic speech, comes off as the chosen figure of a new era where lasting fame might come with serious trade-offs. It's a bold way to frame it, suggesting that success at that level could demand more than people expect. So why would Katt Williams step in at that exact moment and shake things up? Why target the biggest night of another black artist's career like that? Some people call him jealous or unstable, but others who followed him for years see something different. They believe he's trying to challenge what he views as Hollywood's unspoken rules, pushing conversations that most avoid. Through Katt's lens, when Michael repeated names like Denzel Washington and Sidney Poitier, it didn't feel like simple respect.
I stand here because of the people that came before me. Sidney Poitier, Denzel Washington, Halle Berry, Jamie Foxx, Forrest Whitaker, Will Smith, and to be amongst the...
It felt heavier, like a moment loaded with meaning beyond the surface. And that's where the story stretches beyond just one actor. It turns into a bigger conversation about power, influence, and who really shapes the narrative behind the scenes. When the lights at the Dolby Theater fade and that gold statue sits quietly on a shelf, Katt's words don't just disappear, they stick around, raising questions people can't easily ignore. The spotlight might shine bright, but it also casts long shadows, and not everyone agrees on what's hiding in them. Then there's Sinners, and this is where things get even more layered.
Until this.
Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan didn't just make a horror film. They built something that feels deeper, wrapped inside a genre people already love. Set in the 1930s with that tense, heavy atmosphere, wide-open fields, and constant unease, the film creates a world that feels bigger than what's shown on the surface. The vampires and sinners aren't wild or chaotic. They're calm, calculated, and in control. They set the rules, they move with purpose, and that's what makes them unsettling. The fear doesn't come from simple attacks. It comes from the idea of losing control, of being reshaped into something else entirely. That's why audiences walk in expecting one kind of story, but walk out thinking about something much deeper. It hits different when people start connecting the film's themes to real-world systems, where power, control, and identity all collide in ways that aren't always easy to see. Vampires in this story don't just survive on blood. They feed on something deeper, something harder to replace. It's the essence, the natural talent, that raw, lived-in voice you hear in blues music, or that rare ability an actor has to move millions without even trying. That's what's really being taken piece by piece, until there's barely anything left that feels original. In this world, everything runs through gatekeepers, figures with serious influence, the ones who can open doors or quietly close them for good. The system doesn't crush artists right away. That would be too obvious. Instead, it builds them up, surrounds them with luxury, mansions in LA, fast cars, non-stop attention, and makes the climb feel worth it. But every step higher comes with pressure, with expectations that start to shape who they are. You want fame? Let us rewrite your story. You want that award? Then adjustments have to be made. That's the trade people start talking about. And in Sinners, Michael B. Jordan's character isn't just up against danger, he's dealing with that pull, that temptation to fit into something bigger and more controlled. Trapped inside a polished, high-end world that looks perfect from the outside, the tension builds fast. The film shows how talent can be reshaped, redirected, even drained over time, using stories that echo through history, like Robert Johnson in 1932, surrounded by rumors of a Crossroads deal for extraordinary skill. It all adds to that uneasy feeling that something valuable is always on the line. But the film flips that whole legend on its head. Robert Johnson didn't meet the devil. In Sinners, he meets Papa Lega, the spirit of crossroads and contracts. And Papa Lega isn't just some mystical figure. He's a clear symbol of modern power players, the one standing right at the turning point of every rising artist's career, calm, smiling, offering a deal that sounds too good to pass up. I'll give you everything, except your freedom. That's where the tension really kicks in. The story digs deeper into how talent gets reshaped once it enters the spotlight. When black artistry is pushed into mass markets, the raw emotion, the real-life pain, the truth behind it can get smoothed out, polished, and repackaged into something easier to sell. It looks perfect on the surface, but something real gets lost in that process. And the film makes it clear, the shift doesn't always come from force, it comes from choice. They don't turn you into something else, you agree to it. That's the part that hits hardest, because once that choice is made, everything changes. The artist doesn't just rise, they become part of the same system that shapes the next wave. That's where the idea of the contract gets heavy, not as something literal, but as a symbol of the trade-offs that come with success. And in the film, the pressure builds until Michael B. Jordan's character realizes something unsettling. The very spotlight lifting him up is also draining him at the same time. That's why the question lingers and won't go away. When people look at moments like the 2026 Oscar win, some start asking, is it purely recognition, or is it the result of navigating a system with hidden costs? It's a tough question, and not everyone agrees, but the film pushes you to think about it anyway. Sinners stands out because it uses horror to say things most people avoid saying out loud. It's not just about vampires. It's about identity, control, and what it takes to hold on to yourself in a world built on pressure and expectation. Every scene feels layered, like it's pointing at something just beneath the surface, something easy to miss if you're not really paying attention. And then the story circles back to that old legend, the Crossroads in 1932. A young Robert Johnson, full of passion but still finding his sound, steps into the unknown at midnight on Highway 61 and 49 in Clarksdale, Mississippi. The night is still, heavy, almost unreal. Then a shadow appears. Quiet, controlled, no big speech, no dramatic move. The figure takes his guitar, tunes it, plays something haunting, and hands it back. From that moment on, everything changes. Robert isn't just good, he's something else entirely. His music carries weight, emotion, something that hits people deep and leaves them uneasy in the best way. But that's where the mystery stays alive. What did it cost to reach that level? That question hangs in the air, unanswered, adding even more depth to the story that still gets talked about today. The legend says he met the devil at the crossroads and traded away his soul. And not long after, his life was cut short, ending mysteriously at just 27. That story isn't just dramatic for no reason, it sits right at the core of Sinners because it reflects a pattern people have talked about for generations. It's not really about one man, it's about what happens when talent collides with power. In the film, meeting Papa Lega at the crossroads isn't some literal ritual. It's a moment, a decision point. It's when an artist comes face to face with the system and what it offers. The vampires aren't just creatures. They act like brokers, standing in the middle, presenting a deal that's almost impossible to refuse. Fame, influence, recognition, but in exchange, parts of identity, personal story, and freedom start to slip away. That's the trade the film keeps pointing at. And when you look back at Robert Johnson, the story hits differently. Not as a supernatural tale, but as a reflection of harsh realities. An artist navigating an industry that could take more than it gives. His life and career become symbolic, representing how talent can be shaped, controlled, and pushed under pressure until there's barely room left to breathe. That's why the film frames him as the first to step through that door, only to realize it didn't lead to freedom, but to something far more complicated. Then comes the Duke joint scene. And this is where everything turns intense. Set in the heavy heat of the 1930s Mississippi Delta, the space feels alive, thick with the smell of cheap whiskey, sweat, and raw emotion. At first, it looks like a moment of release, people coming together, dancing, singing, trying to forget the weight of their reality. But underneath that energy, there's something building, something uneasy, like the night is leading towards something much bigger than just music and celebration. But under Ryan Coogler's direction, with Michael B. Jordan bringing serious intensity, that Duke joint scene flips into something way deeper than just a performance. It stops feeling like entertainment and starts feeling like a full-on ritual, music turning into a spiritual force that cracks open the night and links past, present, and future all at once. And it doesn't even start with instruments. It begins with a raw, worn-out howl, something straight from the soul that hits you instantly. The way it's shot makes it even heavier. One continuous take, almost 5 minutes long, no breaks, no escape. It builds this tight, suffocating pressure that keeps rising. The deep red tones flood the screen, not just for style, but loaded with meaning. Danger, sacrifice, something lurking underneath it all. And outside, pure darkness, like something is waiting, watching, ready to close in the second the energy shifts. Then the scene takes a turn you don't expect. The camera starts catching things that shouldn't be there. Figures from the past slipping into the crowd. Enslaved people packed onto ships, bodies moving through endless cotton fields. Early blues artists whose lives ended under strange and painful circumstances. Images that feel real, not imagined. It's like history breaks through the surface and refuses to stay buried. That's when it clicks. This isn't just a party. This is memory coming alive. The music unlocks something deep, like cultural DNA activating inside everyone in that room. They're not just people dancing anymore. They become carriers of everything that came before them. Pain and strength all mixed together. Every movement feels intentional. Every shout sounds like it's echoing across generations, turning the whole space into something powerful and impossible to ignore. Then everything peaks. The energy builds so high, it feels like the Duke joint itself starts breaking apart. And in the middle of it all, Michael stands alone, lit up, locked in, completely transformed. Time stops making sense. Past and present crash into each other. The sound of that guitar pulls from everywhere at once, blending voices, history, struggle, and something bigger than words. The camera pushes closer, and now it's not just the character anymore. It feels like you're looking straight at him, raw and exposed, like there's something he understands in that moment that can't even be spoken out loud. It hits like a realization that across every era, the same cycle keeps repeating, with artists pouring everything out while something bigger benefits from it. And that's the message that sticks. This scene isn't built for applause. It's about resistance, about holding on to memory in a system that depends on people forgetting. Because once that memory wakes up, everything changes. The control starts slipping, the fear shifts direction, and suddenly the artist isn't easy to shape anymore. By the end of it, the Duke joint isn't just a location. It becomes a turning point, a space where identity is reclaimed, where the past stands tall instead of being erased. What you're hearing isn't just music. It feels like something burning, something alive, something that refuses to be contained. And that's where the real meaning lands. Not magic, not fantasy, but a system being exposed through every note and every moment on that screen. Michael B. Jordan plays a character standing right on the edge of something that looks like immortality, but it's not coming from vampire blood. It comes from legacy, from having your name locked into cinematic history forever. And that's where the idea of the blood deal hits. It's not fantasy, it's a sharp metaphor for the kind of contracts and pressures artists can face in the real world. What makes it intense is this: the system doesn't force anyone into it. It pulls you in with temptation, the flashing lights, the attention, the image of that gold Oscar sitting on a pedestal. It all looks like the ultimate escape. But once you step in, things start to shift. Not in some literal way, but in what you give up. Creative control, personal voice, the ability to fully decide your own path. That's the real trade the film keeps pointing at. Every step forward can come with conditions. Each agreement, each opportunity can slowly reshape an artist's identity, turning something personal into something managed. And that's the core tension Sinners keeps pushing. Ownership. Not just of work, but of self. In the film, the gatekeepers don't just want a moment of brilliance. They want lasting control over what's created and how it's used. And that idea hits close to real-world conversations. From ownership rights to creative control, there are ongoing debates about who truly benefits from success in the entertainment space. You can create something powerful, something that moves millions, but that doesn't always mean you control what happens to it next. That's where the pressure builds. The system offers a dream that's hard to ignore. Follow this path and you'll gain power, influence, everything you've worked for. But the film keeps questioning that promise, because what looks like power on the surface can come with limits underneath. You can have success, visibility, and recognition, but still feel restricted in what you can say or how you can show up if it conflicts with expectations tied to your image. That's where Sinners really pushes its message. It breaks down that constant tension between freedom and fame, showing how complicated that balance can become. The spotlight shines bright, no doubt, but it also raises the question of what stands behind it and what it might take to stay fully in control while standing in it. Original word count 384, rewritten word count 431. If it threatens revenue, everything changes fast. You can have millions of fans watching your every move, but still feel boxed in, like you can't fully live or speak the way you want. The moment something falls outside the image built around you, pressure kicks in. That's where it gets heavy. Because the system doesn't take you out physically, it chips away at your ability to push back. It reshapes people, turning strong voices into safe faces, bold thinkers into polished brand figures. That's exactly the edge Michael B. Jordan's character stands on. One path leads to a kind of immortality, where your name lives forever, but at the cost of losing something personal along the way. The other path? Staying true to yourself, even if it means fading out of the spotlight. That tension hits hard, and it mirrors the kind of choices the film keeps bringing up again and again. Some viewers even started connecting that idea to real-life moments. Around the time of the awards push, there was that widely discussed Ferrari crash in Los Angeles. Coverage moved fast, then suddenly went quiet, and not long after, Michael was back in public, calm, focused, promoting Sinners. People online ran with that timing, building theories and connecting dots, even though there's no clear evidence tying those moments together beyond coincidence. And that's where things start to blur for audiences. In the film, the main character goes through a traumatic moment and then faces a life-changing offer tied to survival and success. When people look at real-world events through that same lens, it can feel eerie, even if it's just interpretation layered on top of reality. The internet amplified it all, turning a moment into a full narrative almost overnight. Still, at its core, Sinners is about trade-offs, and Michael B. Jordan carries that weight directly into his performance. But his journey didn't start here. It's been building for years through his work with Ryan Coogler, from Fruitvale Station to Creed to Black Panther, and now this. Their partnership stands out because it's not just about making films. It's about telling stories that actually say something, even when it gets uncomfortable. And in Sinners, that ambition goes even further. Michael isn't just playing one role. He's stepping into two completely different identities within the same story. That means every scene gets more complex. Every emotion has to be hit from multiple angles. Every detail has to be sharp. It pushes the performance to another level, showing just how much control, focus, and range it takes to bring something like this to life on screen. Every interaction has to be precise, down to the smallest detail. This isn't just acting, it's control at the highest level. He has to remember every step, every line, every reaction, hit it perfectly, then go back and do it all over again, but as a completely different person. That's not just performance, that's stepping into two sides of yourself and keeping them separate. And even Michael admitted it. This was the toughest role he's ever taken on, not just because of the technical side, but because of what the story demands emotionally. Sinners pushes into heavy territory, history, identity, the tension between rising up and what it might cost you. And that's where the deeper question starts creeping in. When you're playing a character losing control, are you fully in control yourself? That idea sits quietly, but it sticks. In real life, Michael is at the peak. Oscar win, global recognition, influence. But the film keeps hinting at something else, that reaching the top isn't always simple, and sometimes it comes with pressure people don't openly talk about. You won't hear it spelled out, but you can feel it in moments like that stage walk, that speech, that energy in the room. And then there's the weight of that statue itself. When Michael B. Jordan held the Oscar, it wasn't just a personal win, it carried history with it. In nearly 100 years, only a small number of people have stood in that exact spot. Sidney Poitier, Denzel Washington, Jamie Foxx, Forrest Whitaker, Will Smith, and now him. That number is small enough to make anyone stop and really think. That's why his speech hit different. It didn't feel like a typical thank you. It felt like recognition, like he was pulling those names into the moment with him. Not just honoring them, but making it clear. He didn't arrive there alone, and that moment belonged to something bigger than just one person standing on that stage. But that opens up a tougher question nobody can easily ignore. If it took nearly 100 years to reach just 6, is that really progress or something else entirely? The Oscar stands as a symbol of recognition, sure, but recognition from who? Who's making those calls behind the scenes? And when that moment finally comes, is it fully your victory or is it permission being granted? That question hits different when you really sit with it. And this isn't about taking anything away from Michael B. Jordan. Far from it. It's about zooming out and seeing the bigger picture. One powerful win doesn't erase a long, complicated history. Sinners doesn't claim anything supernatural. No clear villains, no easy answers, but it points toward patterns that feel real. Systems where talent is found, lifted up, and then shaped in ways people don't always notice at first. That's what makes it unsettling. Not because it proves anything, but because it makes you think. It asks the kind of questions most people would rather avoid. Who really controls the narrative? And more importantly, what does success actually cost when everything is on the line? There are no monsters stepping out of the shadows here, just a system that runs smoothly, quietly, almost invisible if you're not looking closely. So maybe the real question isn't, did anyone sell their soul? It's whether they understood the value of what they were giving up in the first place. We're not making absolute claims about every detail here, and this is all meant for discussion and perspective, not decisions. But one thing's clear, these conversations aren't going away anytime soon. If this made you think even a little, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who needs to see it. And drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you really think is the true cost of success? Let's talk about it.
Who supported Sinners, who went to go see the movie once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times. Thank you, because you guys made this movie what it is. I love you. I love you. I love you.
Looking for freedom, you know, we never gonna find.